I dispute that I must become what I am not.
House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 2 is in our rearview mirror now, and to say that it's had an irreversible impact on the story would be an understatement. We saw princesses begging for asylum from their mistakes, princes being stabbed within an inch of their lives, and queens showing both mercy and ruthlessness to friend and foe alike. The semblance of order that had been maintained so far, real or imagined, has now been shattered, and the only path forward is through fire and blood. At least that's what the trailer HBO released right after Episode 2's conclusion suggests. So spoiler warning, because we'll be going deep into the preview of Episode 3 and giving you a taste of what you can expect. Without further ado, let's get right to it.
You may not rule and remain yourself. There is in you a door that must shut.
The Hand arrives. The first shot of the preview trailer shows Rhaenyra Targaryen on the Iron Throne, as supplicants demand her objection within the throne room of King's Landing. A line of gold cloaks holds the supplicants back at a safe distance, because Episode 2 proved that they're more loyal to the Blacks than the Castle Guard, which is decidedly green. Even after Alicent used Helena's authority as queen to order all green soldiers to stand down, many of them tried to fight Rhaenyra and Daemon, and Sir Rickard Thorne went so far as to form a battle line to protect the throne. He's been in prison now, most likely pending execution, and this is how things stand at the moment within the capital. Rhaenyra left her counselors, Maester Gerardus and Lord Bardemos Skeltigar, back on Dragonstone to take the capital. She has rid the Green Council of its last remaining voices by killing Jasper Wilde and Otto Hightower. With Larys Strong fled, Tywin Lannister presumed dead, and Grand Maester Orwyle bending the knee, Rhaenyra's small council is wide open, and at times of peace, that would have been a great reboot situation. But in war, Rhaenyra can't call upon trusted allies to serve her faithfully with as much ease as she could have a year ago. Most of the people she would call upon are now engaged with the enemy, and if there was ever a time she needed loyal, intelligent counselors about her, it is now. So to see Corlys Velaryon's braids in that opening shot was a blessing, because that means that not only is he coming to King's Landing next episode, he's going to start setting the city aright. The last time we saw the Sea Snake, we were reminded that ultimately House of the Dragon is a family drama. The juxtaposition between Corlys' Velaryon family crowding around him in his time of need, and Rhaenyra's Targaryen family being scattered to the wind paints quite a telling picture. Though he has lost his riches and his new castle, the Sea Snake has gained 2 sons, and he knows where his queen is headed. Driftmark isn't far from the capital, and Corlys is needed in the capital as the hand of the queen. We suspect one of the first things he'll do on a personal level is get his bastard sons, Alan and Adam, legitimized as true scions of House Velaryon. All of Corlys' intended heirs are either dead or have refused his offer, and if House Velaryon's succession remains unclear, then Rhaenyra can't use them for anything beyond naval power. High Tide's wealth is gone, and much of the Balerion fleet is burned or broken. Even if the Blacks wanted to tempt a major supporter of the Greens through marriage, they'd need an eligible bachelor immediately, not in the distant future. Alan and Adam are exactly that, so the arrival of the Hand to the capital is more layers than just Corlys taking up his post. It's a moment that seeks to restore the semblance of stability that existed shortly prior to Rhaenyra's arrival, and Corlys' continued presence in King's Landing is going to ensure that none of his queen's decisions are as rash or risky as the one she took invading the capital. In the trailers and promo material for House of the Dragon, Corlys warns Rhaenyra that she now controls a power that few alive are even familiar with, and that her dragons alone should not be her strength. In the books, Corlys gives her tons of sage advice, with regards to the war effort and the administration of King's Landing, but as Kristen Cole said in Season 2, this war has been given over to the dragons, and considering her extremely emotional disposition, Rhaenyra has need for stable, steady hands and heads about her, and she even says as much herself in the preview. After that shot of her in the throne room with Corlys goes away, she's seen talking to Daemon in her father's bedchamber, and she says that all eyes are on her now. She needs to rule how her father would have ruled. But Daemon is the one person she shouldn't be having this conversation with, because ultimately, his assessment of Viserys was accurate. Viserys might have been a beloved king, but he was weak as well, and Rhaenyra cannot afford to look weak right now. But he also knows that angering her like he used to is out of the question, so he just says that at any rate, they must begin. And by that, we guess he means they must begin to rule. With her hand and her husband by her side, Rhaenyra has no lack of experienced and ambitious military men. But what happens when the war is over? And what happens when Daemon and Corlys' experience becomes a hindrance? Well, that's where her skill at court and diplomacy will be truly tested, and we might just get a glimpse of how she handles things in Episode 3. Rhaenyra's first court. That scene with Corlys Velaryon we just spoke about takes place in the throne room and is a likely part of Rhaenyra's new schedule. As the queen, she must listen to her subjects every day, and take whatever decisions she and her counselors deem to be the best course forward for the realm. Since she doesn't have many of her counselors about her, Rhaenyra doesn't need to worry about defiance in the short term. She can make decisions that her judgment allows and her hand approves of, but beyond that, it's important for us to note that the measure of her reign will never be taken by the number of battles she's won. It will be taken from the way she handles court intrigue. There are many in the world of Westeros who would have been excellent warriors and poor administrators, excellent administrators and poor warriors. In House Targaryen itself, there were men who fought better than they ruled, and ruled longer than they held swords in their hands. But the thing that happens whenever one such ruler takes the throne is that the aspect of governance they ignore ends up becoming the cause of their downfall. And if a king or queen can't hack winning battles both on and off the field, then that's an indicator as to how long their reign will even last. Aegon the Conqueror held the Seven Kingdoms together for 37 years after his coronation at Old Town. His heir Aenys nearly lost his realm within 5 years by being weak and indecisive. His other son Maegor, whom Rhaenyra has been compared to before, managed to win all battles he fought in and keep the realm united, but lost his life in the process. Maegor's victories are tainted by the amount of bloodshed he caused, and while many recall that he was a great warrior, all remember that he was a terrible king. Rhaenyra's first act after taking King's Landing was to personally behead Otto Hightower in a dramatic scene witnessed by many lords and ladies of the realm. From a personal perspective, this moment felt like justice and a relief to her, because she finally got rid of the man who pretty much killed her father and stole her throne from underneath her. But from the perspective of those courtiers, capital punishment is what the queen bestows upon those who betray her, and so the tone of her reign is already quite fearful. Disobey her, and you might meet the Seven Gods the same way Sir Otto Hightower did. And that's not even talking about Rhaenyra's capacity for small talk. There's a scene in the trailer where the Black Queen is walking through the Red Keep with her gold cloak escort, and we see several members of the court firing off their demands at her. There's a herald, a septa, serving men and women, and likely a couple of lesser lordlings and their ladies within that crowd as well. They're talking about things to control and matters of the bedchamber, and it's clear by the way they're surrounding Rhaenyra that their words are making her feel like she's drowning. She was named queen, she has become queen, but does she really know a queen's duties or disposition? Rhaenyra has acted like a petulant child whenever an occasion demands delicacy, and we suspect that she might dismiss the crowd of courtiers courteously enough to their faces, but do nothing to fulfill their demands behind their backs. And while we saw her taking Lady Fell and Lord Meadow's hands in her own to thank them for their loyalty, she won't be nearly as forgiving to those who switch to the Greens, some of whom might be in that crowd that she addressed alongside Corlys Velaryon. Most importantly, there are two shots that show us how dull Rhaenyra might find ruling to be. The first is a shot of her sitting the Iron Throne. She's wearing the crown, she has her sword on her hip, she's achieved her father's dream, and yet she's restless and impatient. Emma Darcy is excellent at conveying these subtleties about Rhaenyra with just a flicker of her lip or a raised eyebrow, and that's how we can tell that in this one thing at least, the Black Queen might actually be worse than her half-brother. Aegon is a terrible person, but at least he tried to be interested in affairs of state and issued decrees that help common people. The question with Rhaenyra is whether she'll have similar enthusiasm toward her duties, and whether she can succeed where Aegon could not. His promises lack pragmatism, but hers might have too much of it, and that's why Rhaenyra's court scenes will determine how she's remembered by history. The other scene is that infamous banquet that's been teased since the first trailer for Season 3 came out, where Rhaenyra is feasting loyal courtiers within the Red Keep. Oh, they observe protocol and sit and eat and drink and move all after the new queen, but Rhaenyra is more focused on sussing out which of them could be traitors rather than using her words and actions to ensure treason doesn't mushroom within her own walls. We already know the preventative measure she likes to employ is a bit permanent. Will the first time Rhaenyra holds court prove that she's as cruel as Maegor? Only Episode 3 can fully confirm that, but based on everything we've seen so far, and what's written in the books, it's more likely than not that the answer is yes, and we fully expect her handling the royal court to signal the same. Show exclusive: Daemon Targaryen meets Daeron the Daring and set up for First Tumbleton. The show has made many changes to the original material, and while they've been improvements in some cases, and we're still waiting to see how others land, this one in particular might just be an outlier that casts a long shadow over everything else. While discussing the matter of the remaining Greens, which is a matter most urgent for the Blacks, Rhaenyra is told she'll have to remove all living threats to her authority. We know that she was prepared to kill both Aegon and Aemond, because the precondition for her deal with Alicent was that Aegon must die, and she dispatched Hugh, Ulf, and Adam to the Isle of Faces to await Aemond's arrival at Harrenhal for an ambush. But she was supposed to leave all other members of Alicent's family unharmed, which she probably would have done had one of those members not yet been another challenge to her authority. Even if Aegon and Aemon died and Alicent disappeared with Helaena and Jaehaera, as long as her youngest son Daemon was alive, the Green cause would live on as well. Ormond Hightower would see to that, and since he's being set up as the major antagonist of this season, it only makes sense that he gets a bit of a showdown with one of our protagonists, because in the books, he doesn't interact with any of the major players. No, in the books, Ormond's supposed to be laying siege to Longtable and sacking Bitterbridge on his way to Templeton, but it looks like the show is going to take a different approach. Both those castles' roles in the narratives were minimized by the deletion of Aegon's other son, Maelor, so it looks like we're skipping the filler and going straight to Templeton itself. That's just as well, considering Templeton is where the real turning point of the dance occurs. But that's not all. It looks like the show will be sending Daemon and one of Rhaenyra's new dragon riders south to treat with the Hightower army, just to get a bit of engagement between the two sides. The preview has Daemon correctly identifying Daeron Targaryen as yet another claimant to the throne who must be killed. And while Rhaenyra's head does jerk toward him when he makes this statement, we did not hear her response to Daemon's words. She most likely agrees with him, but she doesn't want to say it out loud because it makes her just as bad as Alicent was in her head a few weeks ago. Whether Daemon meets Daeron and Ormond with her blessings and on her command, or on his own volition is still unclear. After all, Daemon and his dragon rider show up to meet an army 15,000 strong with only their dragons. Ormond brings Daeron forward for a conversation with his uncle, but it looks like both sides know there won't be any fighting between them anytime soon. This could be yet another impulse act by Daemon because he's done exactly this kind of thing before, but if it isn't, then that represents a major shift in Rhaenyra's stance on violence, and it also gives us a show-exclusive addition that we can actually look forward to. In fact, this parlay might be what lays the groundwork for the bombshell that's supposed to drop on both sides at the end of Season 3, because as of right now, Rhaenyra's new dragon riders are on thin ice. In the books, they were ordered to join the Battle of the Gullet, but in the show, they abandoned their post on the advice of a witch to do that. Moreover, they had the good sense to question or have opinions in the presence of Daemon Targaryen, and he's been putting both Ulf and Hugh in their places ever since he joined up with his wife. The trailer gives us a brief shot at all three dragon riders standing in the inner courtyard of the Red Keep as the Green's heraldry and tapestries are taken down, and we suspect this is when another loyalty test will be handed to them by the Rogue Prince. Adam's soon-to-be Valerion will likely take it up eagerly, but Hugh's grace in the moment feels doubtful, and Ulf's non-existent. Daemon slapped him around to get him to obey commands, and as long as he remains a soldier, Ulf is going to be disgruntled with his lot. If the dragon seed Daemon takes with him on this parlay is Adam, that will only increase the distance between him and Hugh and Ulf, because Adam isn't baseborn and he will soon have titles and be named heir to Driftmark after his older brother Alan. All this is to say that this show-exclusive meeting between the Rogue Prince and the best of Alicent's children sets the stage for one of the bloodiest battles in Westerosi history, and one of its worst instances of betrayal as well. Plus, it gives more meaningful screen time to Ormond Hightower, and if you catch us complaining about that, give us a slap if you see us in the streets. Fallout of War, Rhaenyra and Alicent's new dynamic. The last thing that we have to look forward to in Episode 3 is the update in the dynamic between Rhaenyra and Alicent. It's not an exaggeration to say that their relationship lies at the heart of the core conflict of House of the Dragon. Their friendship was first betrayed by Alicent, who seduced Rhaenyra's dad on her own dad's command, and then became her stepmom. It was then betrayed by Rhaenyra's wanton lust. Then Alicent agreed to keep her secrets safe, only to weaponize them after catching Rhaenyra's lie, and on it went, up until Alicent finally realized that she'd been manipulated her entire life by her father, her husband, her children, and everyone around her. She wanted to regain control over her existence by cutting them all out and going away with her favorite, and in a moment of madness, she hoped that appealing to her old friend might actually give her what she wants. In a way, Alicent wasn't wrong, because Rhaenyra is the only Black who believes she will keep her word. But Alicent's belief that everything will be fine once the city falls was perhaps the most naive thing she's done in her entire life. She has 3 sons. She must have known that unless all of them are dead, Rhaenyra's reign will be threatened, and she will silence all threats to her birthright. Alicent didn't exactly have a lot of love for her father after he marginalized her in Season 2. We're not sure she felt rage when she saw his decapitated head at the end of Episode 2, because in a way, that's what she'd wished for as well. But in the trailers for Season 3, we see Rhaenyra burning what looks like a skull in a hearth fire while she's talking to Alicent. And if that skull is Otto's, which we suspect it is, then the fact that Rhaenyra says she won't change to become a good ruler at the end of the preview is more ominous than anything we've said up till now. Alicent must have known that if she didn't leave the capital with Helaena, that if she somehow returned to the Red Keep, she would never be allowed to leave. But fear and hope makes a person desperate, and she desperately wanted to believe Rhaenyra would do as she did. The trailers makes it clear she doesn't believe that anymore, because she's giving Rhaenyra advice on how to queen, and the first thing she tells her is that in order to rule effectively, she has to close off a part of herself forever. Alicent's eyes in this moment are rather telling, because they're not happy or sad or even dead. They're wide and white and filled with a confusing mix of fear, relief, and rage. Despite everything Otto made her do, he was still her father. Despite the monsters they've become, Aegon and Aemond are still her sons. Helena is the apple of her eye, and Daemon is the son she hopes will redeem her with his kindness. Alicent Hightower's desperation has made her lose everything, so now all she can do is hope the same happens to Rhaenyra. Even as she's telling her that time will tell whether Rhaenyra won't have to become ruthless to rule, her friend throws back that assertion in her face as though they're squabbling like children again. But for the first time in a long time, it's Alicent who's being pragmatic and Rhaenyra the fool. The Green Queen knows just how many compromises a woman has to make in order to attain and retain power, but Rhaenyra's privilege blinds her to this truth. As she burns all the Hightower heraldry that she has her men pull off the Red Keep's towers and turrets, Rhaenyra thinks to herself that fire and blood will solve all her problems. She's about to learn just how reductionist and false of a belief that truly is, because whatever love she and Alicent might have had for each other is over now. They've both taken fathers and sons from one another, and now all that remains is them. Who will fold first, and who will die screaming? That's the question that needs answering, and unfortunately, we don't think either of them are lucky enough to escape those questions unscathed or unburned. But as for our breakdown of the preview for House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 3, we hope you enjoyed it, because this is all we've got for you guys today. Let us know your thoughts on the preview in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Dragon content this summer. We'll see you guys real soon with yet another video, so until then, stay safe and have a great day.